How you guys doing today? Let's do some maintenance on this Slysz Bowie by Spyderco. I have been carrying it a lot. I absolutely love this knife. But I haven't done much maintenance to it, but other than sharpening. So you can see I've reprofiled it. The edge was a little bit thick. I knew this is just for me, personally. This doesn't feel like a hard use knife. And I didn't need a thickish edge, like 20 degree, 18 degree. So I brought it way down because I believe that this CTS XHP can handle this crazy angle. This is right around probably 10 or 11. It's really thin, but it cuts awesome. Some people love it. Some people hate thick bevels like that. I don't know if you can really see it. But anyways, I don't mind it. And I love that it's going to cut really well for me. So did that a few days ago. So the performance is there. I have not had any problems at all with the CTS XHP. So I will keep you up to date. Please don't go sharpen your CTS XHP down to 10 degrees per side. And let me be the guinea pig and we'll find out if it actually harms your knife or not. So I'm just going to loosen up a couple here. We're going to do some servicing. You know what? First of all, I should take that lanyard off. So I'm just going to pick one side and pull it. And we should be able to save this lanyard to put it back on. I'm just pulling it out of that slip knot. And then I can loosen up these coils and feed it through. Maybe we'll do that on camera. I don't know. I like to keep the same lanyards if I can because of how worn it is. It just looks like, you know, very nice and broken. But anyways. Alright. So I am going to take this pivot out first. And I am assuming that this knife is going to be really full of crap on the inside of it. Did I swing it a couple times for you? It was just sounding real dry. If not, it just sounded like raw steel rubbing on raw steel. So all the lube is gone. Let's get a look at how dirty it is. Look how nice and broken that is. It's mirror polished from use. I didn't do that artificially. You can see the detent track is 100% dry. No rust. A little bit of pocket lint in there. Making that video talking about the contact area. We've already featured this knife. You can see how we're getting contact all the way up. Maybe. Maybe not. Anyways, we're going to clean some of that stuff up. Where did I put the other washer? Is the knife hiding it? Yes. Let's get a look at the washers. Completely dry. So yeah, just need some maintenance. It's crazy because you think that like how picky and crazy I seem to be. I'm not that way with my own stuff. Generally, I don't do maintenance on my stuff until it like tells me it needs maintenance. So until I start hearing my blade squeaking open and closed, or until I get some sort of funky blade play or something, I generally don't just take my knives apart. You know, is that good or bad? I don't know. Probably not good because I don't keep my blades lubed and all this and that. But I like patina, but I have had Striders rust on me, you know, with their bead blasted bodies. This is a T6. Pull out these body screws. And you don't have to break your knife down all the way. You can just slide the front blade out, kind of clean this area in there, and then, you know, do it that way. Oh wow, you can see the wear on this. But it's kind of nice to pull it apart like this, do a full in-depth cleaning, show some of you guys who might be on the fence about a near $300 production Spyderco made overseas. You know, I really like this knife, but I know some people have received this knife and it just wasn't for them. So it works for me. What works for me might not work for you. I like it. I'm not saying this knife is perfect. I do wish that is a G10 backspacer. I do wish that the handles were a little more chamfered on the edges like a Sebenza. I don't have one here next to me. Look at all that dirt. Let's take a look at the lock face. Beautiful. I don't think you could ask for a better wear pattern, really. I mean, it looks to me, let me get my pointer out. Looks to me like it's contacting that blade all the way up to here and all the way down. Dirty. So we're going to clean that up. Check out the stop pin, how it's set inside that titanium on a blind drilled hole, which means it doesn't pop through this side. And I am absolutely certain, after testing this knife for many, many months now, this has to be a hardened piece of steel for that stop, because my lockup has not changed at all. So, alright, let's get to the cleaning and polish up those washers. Today I'm just going to use some Windex and a toothbrush. And I have a little bowl of water over here next to me. If my voice sounds very rough, if I haven't mentioned it yet, we've all been really sick. That's kind of where I've been. My oldest boy has bronchitis. He's getting over that with his meds. He's got like a breathing treatment that he's been doing. So we're on the upswing here, but it's just been rough. Then my boys had their championship games. They went to the Super Bowl, the ultimate championship for the area. They both lost, yeah. But it was great that they made it, you know. And that's one of the reasons we like them playing sports. Sometimes you have to learn how to lose. Sometimes you just have an off day. It was really my youngest boy. He got beat only by 2 plays, really. You know, that's just how the game goes. Some days it's just how it is. It depends on who wins the coin flip at the beginning of the game. And you don't know it until the end of the game, when you know you could have had possession of the ball, you know, at halftime, maybe change the whole course of the game. But anyways, back to the knife. You can see the wire clip. You can see how it's worn down some of that anodizing. But understand, this knife has been in and out of my pocket thousands of times. Like, I am if you guys are watching this, you're probably as obsessive, compulsive knife flippers as I am. And you're just constantly fiddling. If I have 2 blocks to walk, there's a good chance I might pull out my knife and flick it a couple times before I even notice it. You know? It's just strange. Very strange. Do you guys do that, or am I the only one? I know I'm not the only one, because I've had a friend say he'd have it out in his hand, like in line at the grocery store or something, you know, about to flick it, like, whoa, what am I doing? So it happens. It happens. It's like a worry stone. They're just fun to fiddle with. And I would say, you know, that's part of it. That's part of the hobby. It's part of what keeps us coming back. It's why you want to try new knives. Here it is, cleaned up, as a testament to how well anodizing does actually hold up under real world use. And this is me using this knife, not babying it at all, because I know I can. I honestly thought I was going to carve like wood grain pattern into this handle when I got it. And I might still do that, but I don't have time to do my stuff right now. I actually got a few things I need to ship out today. Gonna be making some more videos today. Gonna be in the shop again. I just wanted to get this knife right so I could go back in my pocket. I really like this knife. Alright, I'm also gonna clean that lock bar with a little bit of lighter fluid, and I put that on a Q-tip. Again, you don't have to do it this way, but this way works really well for me. This really degreases and cuts through whatever junk might be on that lock bar. And if I didn't mention it on the review, this knife absolutely, without a doubt, does have a carburized, not carbidized, carburized. It's basically like a heat treat that you can do to titanium. I don't know too much about it. I don't do that treatment, but I know that's what Chris Reeve does to the Sebenza. And we know how well that holds up, so no complaints at all. I can tell it's not carbidized because I do carbidizing, and usually it leaves like a bumpier surface, which is why also it helps a lock stick. You can see that the interface here to the blade is such that with this slightly ramped and mostly flat, this bar has no mushrooming, no deformation. It's just like it was, and it's seen thousands of lockups. So good job, Spyderco. You can see how when I anodized the knife, I left this spot with no anodizing. That's still the factory finish. Let's get the pointer out. That's still the factory finish right around here. And then that is where the washer has worn over it over time. So there you go. We got the handles clean. We have degreased that lock face. That's very important. You don't want any kind of grease on there. And now let's clean the blade up, and we'll clean that back spacer. Get it together. You could see no denting where that's been hitting the lock bar. the stop pin. It's scratched, but I'm telling you, rubbing, it looks like a dent, but I promise you it's there might be the slightest surface scratch on it. I can barely detect it with this, so who knows if that's going to be a problem over time. Again, I still have to make my stop pin video. We already did the lock face video. I don't know if who's seen that and who hasn't seen it. It's like 30 minutes long, but I'm going to do another one on stop pins. That slight dent right there would have been helped if we had a slight radius here that interacted with that stop pin and distributed that pressure around. But I can't complain, really. I mean, lockup hasn't moved, so I can't complain at all. So I'm just going to use some more lighter fluid. Just going to clean out some of this junk here off the lock face, around the pivot, clean out inside there. Use these things like they're free. They're cheap enough. You don't want to keep contaminating your work that you're trying to keep clean. Lighter fluid's a great cleaner. It cuts through a lot of junk. You can also use rubbing alcohol, but this actually does a lot better job, and it's super cheap too, so no worries there. It lasts a long time. Unless you're using it for lighters, good gracious. I tried to carry a Zippo for a few weeks way back in the day, and I had to refill that thing with lighter fluid every other day. It evaporated so quickly. I don't see any junk in my jimping. Maybe. Yeah, we could do that when the knife's together. You can just do this though. Just clean it out with a toothpick. You scrub it with a brush. Old toothbrush too works. Basically, tooth tools work really well on knives. And ear tools. Alright. Maybe we can see that angle a little better. Look at that. That is laid back. Some people are going to hate that. Some are going to love it. I love it because it cuts like a demon. Alright, so give a little squirt to the stop pin. Just going to clean that pivot out. If you wanted to, you could dip these in water and do toothbrush and like some dish soap on them, and then make sure they dry off before you put them together. I'm not going to get that crazy. It's just going to go right back in my pocket. The only thing I do want to make sure I clean off is this pivot. You can see they do use a D pivot that's locked into the scales on both sides. And I have found that it helps tremendously. It really does. I haven't used Loctite with this pivot, and I don't have to keep readjusting that pivot all the time. It just stays how it's supposed to stay. This is actually a pivot where you can pull this screw out, and then there's a center piece here. So it's like a 3-piece type pivot. But somehow this tightened up here, which is fine. I'll just leave it together. But just know that this piece does come out if you wanted to. So it's a 3-piece, 2 males going into the female center pivot, D male pivot. There you go. Let's clean the back spacer, washers, polish them up, and lube it. We'll get out of here. I've got a lot of stuff planned for you guys. Hopefully everybody will stay well. I always say that and then I disappear. I do apologize, but family comes first, and I think everybody can understand that. You know, I'm not going anywhere though. Don't ever, if I just disappear for a week or two, don't ever think like I couldn't leave the knife hobby if I wanted to. Like I can't. It's part of me. Anybody who knows me, from all the people who I work with, to all the accounts I deliver to all my friends, real world and online friends, to my wife, to my kids, to my parents, to my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, everybody knows I'm a knife guy. There's no apologies. It's what I like. It's one of the things I like. It's not the most important thing in my life, obviously. But it's fun. You could classify me as a bona fide knife nut. I like this backspacer. It's really well done. Really well done. Really well cut. It's grippy, but it's not too grippy. It pokes out just a little bit, enough to add traction, but it's not annoying. It's not a hot spot. It's chamfered on the edge here. In fact, when we put it back together, I'm going to show you. I wish that the edges of this handle was chamfered that well. Look, they barely put one on there. And I've only noticed it 2 or 3 times, but it can be a little bit of a hot spot on the edge of those handles. So if they do a version 2.0, I would like to see that. This is an old Strop. I got the question the other day. I don't know if he's going to be watching this, and I don't know if it was on YouTube or Instagram. I'm going to pull my good Strop out of here. You guys seen this on my touch-up video maybe. But he had asked, how do you stop from digging your strop when you come around with the tip? Right? And you're coming off? How do you stop from digging into your strop? Because the tip, see, if you actually strop the very tip, digs in just a little bit. And you really can't, not if you want to strop all the way to the very tip. Okay? Because it's just going to put pressure down, and it's going to do like a little micro cut, micro scrape. What you can do, the only thing I know how to lessen the blow of that is to just not do it so hard. Barely rub it along. Maybe make sure your angle, if your belly's coming off like a 90 degree right here, and then your strop's coming up. See how this is like a straight? I know it looks like this is 45, but what I mean is this is going straight for the belly for the most part. Make sure that intersects your strop at a 90 degree, and then not dig in with your tip so much and kind of roll it down like this. Can you see that little space right there? So ride that line between right here and here. If you leave it like that and your tip, you're obviously going to dig into your strop. So you can just roll it down just a little bit like that, go flat. That doesn't seem to do it as bad, but you will do it. This is my good strop. It needs to be reconditioned, but you can see if you do it light enough, it really doesn't dig your leather up even when it does do it. All this, most of it will come out when I do a reconditioning, and it's just in the diamond paste that's on the surface. So that's why I recommend you don't spend too much money on your strop. I bought this one off eBay, and I can't remember the guy. I talked to him though. Him and his son make these, and it was like $10, $15. I figure, you know, whatever. I like to support little father and son projects like that. I'm sure he's just getting his son some money and whatever. I think it was pretty awesome. So I can't remember the link on it though. But it's cheap, $10, $15. You can certainly make them. I suggest doing that. I haven't done that myself yet, so I don't know where to get the leather. I think the Apostle P made a few, and he could tell us about his leather. I think he did say that in his video. But anyways, what I do, buy a cheap strop. Okay, make sure you smooth sides. You may have already spent 30 minutes hearing me ramble about that. But then when you're done, because eventually after you resurfer these 2 or 3 times, these strops last me about 6 months, and then they got to go. Now what I do is I save them, and this is an old one. I save them when they can't be reconditioned anymore, and I use it to polish up washers. And then I'll chuck the other one. Do you know what I mean? So I always stay one behind, I guess. So I keep the old one, chuck the other one, because there's no need to have like 10 of these strops around. I guess for this nice one with a paddle, this was a gift from a friend. And I could peel this leather off and glue new leather on it. And that's why I still have this one. I want to do that because it come from a friend. And you don't have to go crazy because this is my knife. This is not for anybody, no customer, or anything like that. So I'm just going to knock the crud off of it. Make sure it's got a smooth surface to go on. If you want to get crazy, I hesitate to say this. It's almost common sense, but I feel like I do have to say it because I have had a few questions in the past. Some people think that you can do this on sandpaper, like 2,000 or 3,000 grit. And you can. But the thing is, if you're doing it with a Sebenza, something that has a pivot bushing in the center of it, you can really throw tolerances off. So that's good enough. That's a little bit more junky on the back, but I'm going to put that side towards the titanium anyways. I'm not looking for a mirror polish on my work knife. This really, I've been carrying this knife to work for the past 2 or 3 weeks straight. That's why, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but I hadn't really been taking much Instagram pictures because I've just been carrying the same knife. And I'm not going to carry knives just to take a picture for Instagram, you know what I mean? So, I'm not really testing any knives right now. I should be. I've got a few here. But I'm so far behind on making the videos that I want to make and stuff that I want to show you guys and some other stuff that I want to do too. I don't know. I don't even know. So you can see, this is some old diamond paste on here. I guess I could reload it and get it to cut a little faster. You see, it polishes them up pretty well. But it doesn't take off too much surface area. Sandpaper is going to take off a lot of surface area. So that's why I like to just go on the strop and polish them up. Make sure it's an old strop because I don't know if we can catch the light. Do you see all that metal that's built up on there? I should recondition this, but there is a lot of bronze phosphor on here from where I've been buffing them up. So there you go. Alright, we are ready to go back together. We had it apart. Yep. Everybody see the situation, how they have built everything. There's no milling on the inside of here. Pretty simple knife. How I would put this back together is I would feed these posts that I kept together. Again, this is a 3-piece post as well. I put them through the back locking side. These are also locked down with the D-shaped, so nothing spins on you. D-shaped mill in there. Oh man. On the back there, can you see the D? There's a joke in there somewhere. Oh boy. Alright. Clean up the back spacer. The back spacer drops over here. Got my finger holding all that stuff there. This is going to go up through the center, lock down with the D, pivot. Now I'm going to carefully set this down and try not to lose my placement with my screws. Looks like that was successful. Now, what we got to do is put the stop pin in before we forget that, clean that off. This is just a stop pin, it is not secured in any way. I don't feel it rattling around, so I feel like Spyderco's tolerances are really well on that. I have heard in the past sometimes Emerson, who knows if it's a rumor or not, will make their stop pin hold just the tolerances just a little bit off on purpose so that it will roll around and it won't flatten out in any one area. When I picked that up to show you guys, I lost my screw there. And the joy of putting stuff together on camera. There we go. And my pivot fell out. We'll get it together. It's really not that hard to service knives. I could have done this in probably 5 minutes if I didn't have the camera on and wasn't running my mouth. Growling like a gremlin. I know my voice is terrible, but whatever. Almost a day doesn't go by where someone comments on my voice or how I speak or whatever. Yeah, don't open a YouTube channel if you don't want to take some sort of criticism, warranted or not. So what I do is I will take the most shiny side and I will face that towards the blade. So I lube that down there with, I know somebody's going to ask, SFL 0 that I received from my buddy who was using it in all of his high-end knives. I'm talking high-end customs and his firearms and stuff, and swears by it, and I swear by it now too. I've been using it for several years. You really don't need much more than that. That might be too much. So what I do is I'm going to clean it up so I don't have a lot of squeeze out. Let's go ahead and put the blade on there. Let's check it one more time. Make sure there's no dirt and whatnot on there. Good and clean. Yep. What I'm going to do, being how this is all laid down, I'm going to press this lock bar down, then set this down. We're in no danger of overextending that lock bar because you're on a flat surface, so you can push that all the way down. You could even hold it if you like. Once you put the blade on, then you can hold the blade. Now the blade's kicked to a 45 here, holding down that lock bar as well. So then I can go back to my lube here, my SFL 0, wipe just a little bit. Use enough, and my suggestion is you can get just a little bit messy. Make sure none of this contacts your lock bar at any time. Now why I say you can get messy is because you can do the cleanup after with this Q-tip. I'm going to show you what I mean. Again, we're going to look at these washers, see the kind of messed up side and the shinier side. I'm going to put that shinier side towards the blade. Because in theory, that's what's really, these washers don't really spin. They're not supposed to spin a lot. The washer's supposed to contact this titanium. And then that washer gives it a smooth surface to ride on, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and put just a little more lube on top of that. And I'm sorry I can't pull this up to show you guys, but I need both my hands and the tripod's already set. Alright, so now that's a little bit messy, but what we're going to do is take a Q-tip. Maybe I can drop you guys down a little. Do that. down into view. Maybe. Take this Q-tip, kind of clean off this mess. Another little tip. See how this is the lock bar right here. Don't wipe it off this way into the lock bar. Wipe it back this way. And you can also spin this to give it a clean surface as you're wiping this up. And flip it. Again, these things are super cheap. Use them like they're free. Make sure none of that gets down in there. And we are about ready to throw the lid on this sucker. Make sure your stop pin is in place. Make sure all your screws are in there, lined up, ready to go. Drop your top on. I suggest lining up with the pivot first, then this, and then your back will fall in place. And now what I would do is take your pivot. I've got a little bit of squeeze out here. Can you see a little bit of lube there? Don't let that get down into threads, because you don't want to lube your threads, because then there's a good possibility that your screw will back out on you in a week or two, you know what I mean? So I'm still putting pressure down on this. That lock bar is still compressed. We're not doing any damage to the lock bar. Take your T9. And this will work with any knife that's built, similar to this. Now what you're gonna watch me do is not even go finger tight. I'm just barely threading on the first 2 or 3 threads of that screw. We're gonna come over here. I'm gonna move to the very back one. We're gonna do the same thing. I'm not putting any pressure on these screws yet. I'm just registering the threads. This knife is very spot on tolerances, so I don't have to worry too much about centering on this. But this is where you can do your tuning for your oh boy, bronze screw fell off the rag. This is where you can do your tuning for your centering. So did you guys see how I did that? Sometimes these little screws, if you don't have a magnetic tool, I put it on like this, and then I follow my finger down like this. It's all kind of second nature to me, but if you're not familiar with working with little parts like this, and you're a little scared to take apart your knife, all this stuff might help somebody. So what I do is, while it's loose, I haven't tightened up any of these screws at all. The knife is together. These are just to hold the pocket clip on, and the front screw there is just a placeholder, so it doesn't look like you're missing a screw here. I would cycle the knife a few times, being careful, because this blade could easily scrape the side, and you're going to scrape your blade, you're going to scrape the inside of your handle. Be very careful to not hit that. Keep pressure on it. Just cycle it a few times while it's loose. I wouldn't even go to full lockup like that, like I just did. Do as I say, not as I do. Just cycle it a few times. That's moving everything around, getting everything flowing. All your lube should be spreaded around now. Spread around, not spread it around. Sorry. Alright, now what I'm going to do is close that blade back. Make sure there is no lube on my lock bar, and there's not. Just to be sure, we'll do a couple of wipes down. We don't have much squeeze out going on in there. Then, let's raise you guys back up. To do your blade centering, again, this is not a tricky knife to do because the tolerances are on so well. What I would do is tighten up the blade screw first, the pivot screw. Just barely finger tight where you feel some tension. Don't worry too much about your blade centering here because you hadn't even tightened your screws yet. So that feels pretty good. Now I'm going to do my back first. Finger tight. I'm going to jump to my front. Finger tight. Jump to this. Finger tight. And we're going to see where we're at on centering. See where we're at on action. Oh, gorgeous. You know what I forgot to do? Oh man, I forgot to put just a little dab of lube inside the detent ball on the blade. So that way that track would be lubed. It's alright though. That's good. The centering is nice. Now I'm going to go back and tighten everything for real. You never want to crank down one screw all the way before you have the knife together. Just like when you're putting a tire on a vehicle. You don't go tighten all the lug nuts. Do this one really tight, do this one really tight, do this one. You a little bit tight, 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 and then you go back and repeat the pattern again until they're all tight. You just don't want to stress your part like that. Wow. Yep, gorgeous. So I'm just going to drop the clip on this. Been 36 minutes, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed hanging out. What you'll notice with these two screws are your clip screws. Same with the Sages. One's a little bit longer. Of course, the one that's a little bit longer is for the wire clip because it lifts off the frame a little bit. There's a couple different ways you can do these. Barely set it on there like that, and sometimes you can sneak this in there. Not gonna work for this knife. Usually what I'll do is I'll hook it like this and then ride it down like it's like this and then ride it down. Make sure it's on the right side of the knife because that's just the way it's intended to be. That's a joke for lefties. I'll just put this in there. And I'm going to put that lanyard back on. There is a little secret to do that, but it's not too hard. You just loosen up those coils. Loosen these up. Slide this back up to the center and then retighten the coils down and adjust it and you're set. So that's it, guys. That is taking it apart, cleaning it all up. What did we do there? We did not tighten that screw, huh? Check all your screws again because, good gracious, I gotta see what's going on with that. Feels like it's not setting in the D-hole properly. Yeah. Oh, you know what it is? Shoot. This knife, it's thinner here and thicker at the butt. So I gotta fix that. I do that on my own time. I was not paying attention. This is much like a CC Strider. It gets a little fat in the rear and then it gets slim up here. So you have to pay attention to the width of these screws as well. Otherwise you come up with a mistake like that and then you gotta switch these out, which is no big deal. This will come out. I could fix this in 30 seconds. Time me. Pull it out. Pull this out. Pull that out. Take the longer one. The longer one goes in the rear. Hey, hey, another joke. And find your D-hole. Tighten that up. And then look stupid on camera. I'm kidding. I never said I was perfect. I make mistakes all the time. I just fix them. Know what I mean? Not a big deal. I would say if you've never taken apart your knife for service, depending on the knife, okay, because sometimes IKBS flippers with loose ball bearings can be an absolute nightmare if you're not familiar with that type of thing. For the most part, if you have a washer action Framelock knife. They're pretty easy to work on. There you go. Now your clip's back, everything's back. Now we've spent 40 minutes together. Good gracious. Alright guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me. I don't know who made it to the end, but that's what it is. I do love this knife. I would say at least in my top 3 favorite Spydercos I've ever had. So there you go. Thanks a lot guys. See ya.